My name's Stephen Aguilera-Mendoza, and I am a singer, musician, and I primarily perform with a band called SONIDO. Can't believe we've been here for 10 years. It's steamy. It's dry. Is this all right? I think I probably picked up a guitar for the first time 8 or 9 years old, maybe. I don't know exactly. This was early 80s, and I kind of feel like I want to say that it was everyone's experience, that there was a guitar in every house, and everyone kind of, spent a bit of time trying to play Led Zeppelin or something, and probably around 10, 11, 12, I started to get more of a feeling that, particularly in relation to singing, not so much in terms of playing guitar at that point, but that I sort of understood that I could sing in tune. I knew what singing in tune sounded like, and I realised that wasn't a universal experience. That there were and I probably got a little bit of positive reinforcement from 1 or 2 people around me that it sort of made me realise, oh, hang on, I can do this, and it's not easy to do, and I enjoy doing it. Year and a half really in Chile that I spent really deepened my interest in the music as well. It was something that I kind of had a passing knowledge of as something that got played in my house, but I didn't really pay a lot of attention to something that I really, really connected with and understood more. The benefit of living over there for that period was that I spoke and understood a lot more Spanish than I ever did previously. And so all of those things kind of came together such that when I got back, I felt like this was something that I not necessarily wanted to do for a living by any stretch, but it kind of defined me. It was part of what made me me. And so when I got back, I started to connect with other people who were interested and that, that's where I met, some of the guys who I still play with today, 35 years later. So SONIDO is a band that performs primarily, certainly music rooted in Latin American folklore, and within that predominantly music from the kind of Andes kind of musical cultures. So that kind of covers the territory of Bolivia, Peru, north of Chile, north of Argentina, and extends further north as well. But this is the music that people might recognise as kind of panpipes and wooden flutes and charangos and things like that. This is a charango here. It's not strung. It's actually quite an old example. So old that this one actually has the original armadillo shell backing, which you don't find much nowadays because I don't know if that's still true, but armadillos were endangered for a period of time, and so nowadays they tend to be all wood. But this is an old version. This is one that I brought back when I got back from Chile in '89, and really was the start of my career in playing this sort of music. I'm just going to really hang that there if I can. Yeah, the group started many years ago, long before I was a part of it. So it originally started in 1977. A group of five, I think, 4 or 5 people at the time who were relatively new immigrants to Australia came together to I guess, reminisce about their own culture that they left behind, and to start to and to give an opportunity to the community that was establishing itself here to connect with their home culture, so far away from home. And pretty quickly, over the course of sort of 5 or 6 years, started to become known as kind of the preeminent exponent of certainly traditional Latin American music in Sydney, and started to play in all sorts of different places, both within the community but also extending out beyond. So I came into the band in 93, I think, or thereabouts, 92, 93, and that was early in a kind of renewal of the band. So some of the establishing members started to move on to other things, or retire, so to speak, and cede the ground to some of us young punks who were, trying to do the same sort of thing, but much younger, and in several cases the children of some of the founders of the band. So when we first started, I'll speak for myself. I lived in a house like many people who come from that part of the world, where we were listening to the radio and whatever was being played there, but we were also listening to music that my parents listened to back in Chile, and that they were interested in, and that kind of permeates into your musical experience as a kid. And so part of what they listened to was this sort of folkloric music, often with a kind of political tinge to it. So bands like Inti Illimani and Iyapu and Victor Jara and Violeta Parra and a lot of other people. And I think that early phase, those first 10 years, was very much a big part of it was sort of wanting to stay connected to that in my own way, but this idea of kind of perpetuating the culture, all the way over here was part of what got us motivated. At the heart of what we do is the instrumentation that's associated with that altiplano kind of space. So again, talking about Bolivia, Peru, north of Chile, north of Argentina, it's a culture that sort of starts with, or that musical culture sort of starts with pan flutes, other wooden flutes, certainly Spanish guitar, because that was an important component of modernising, sort of hundreds of years ago, but modernising that type of music, and then imitations of the guitar that the people there developed. Sometimes they developed them in order to kind of hide the fact that they were performing this kind of music, which has its roots in obviously vastly different life experiences, religious beliefs and spiritual beliefs, etc. So there's a whole other history associated with all of that. But so it's those sorts of instruments, and the kind of the core rhythms and song types that are associated with that part of the world. Art's super important to me, and it's important to me, I guess, because I consider it to be important in and of itself. I find that, try not to sound cliche, but I just find that I and people generally understand the world better through art than through other means. And you know, it's a super important part of my life to create something. Really early on, I decided that yes, I enjoyed playing other people's music, and I got a challenge and a kick out of it. But that was never the full thing for me. I always wanted to add something to the canon. Sounds, you know, much more grander than probably what I might achieve. But you know, I thought that for my self-definition as a musician, it was never going to be enough to be a performer or an interpreter of music. I was always going to have to create something as well. You know, I have a day job. I'm not a musician as a living, and in fact, you know, right through the whatever it is, you know, 30-odd years that I've been performing in one form or another, it's always been the other thing that I do, and yet it couldn't be more central to kind of the way that I think about myself and my identity and what I value. The other thing that sometimes drives me to create is both, you know, sort of hyper inspiration from something or several things that I've heard. It's like, wow, I wish I could write something like that, and maybe I can try. And at the other extreme, kind of dissatisfaction maybe with things that I might be hearing or seeing, where I think, I can do better than that. Why don't I do? You know, and it's, you know, as I say, warts and all, it's a sort of arrogant kind of attitude to have, but that is all, that's there, and you know, I don't diminish it, because I've created stuff out of this feeling that, yeah, I like this, but I think I could do better. And whether I do or don't is a different question, but it acts as a sort of an impetus for that creation. I don't try to sort of predefine or restrict myself in terms of what I write about. But it would be fair to say on reflection that a lot of what I write about is, you know, some form of social commentary or reflection on the way the world works, which has a nugget of spirituality built within it, because it, you know, if I'm I guess drawing attention to something that I think shouldn't be that way, then by definition I'm kind of offering up some alternative that has it in its root some kind of idea about how the world should work. I think as an artist or as a creator or a musician or whatever you want to call it, you know, my hope is what, and what I'm striving to, and don't know that I will am getting there yet or will ever get there, but you know, it's so hard to create something new. It's frankly impossible to create something fully new. But if people can feel like, you know, what they're hearing is something, can kind of get underneath it and hear not just a son cubano played on certain instruments, but actually hear something that, be it subject matter or musical style or delivery or whatever, that just feels that little bit different to their experience of that as a genre, then that's probably as much as I can hope for. You know, I would love for people to feel, listening to something that I wrote, the way I feel about, you know, 1,000, you know, songs and different artists out there who just blow my mind. you know, if I could achieve that just once, that would be amazing. But, you know, it's the journey.
It's amazing.
Duerme, amorcito, duerme. Sueña con alas y aire. Cariñitos de tu madre y luz filtrada con verde. Y cuando el día despierte, camina con ojos abiertos, cada encanto descubierto, escondido a plena vista. Es tu materia de artista y nota en tu concierto. Sea amable y concienzudo, también difícil una gota, porque todo lo que importa requiere a veces un gruño. Pero no levantes un puño, la violencia no conviene. Y si eso no te retiene, agota tus golpes de voz. Sé amigo fiel y feroz, que con ellos todo tienes. Ama de cuerpo entero, como implora Violeta. Y si bien no hay receta para triunfar con un te quiero, habita lo incierto, exprésalo con ardor, no te la juegues con temor, sin riesgo no se adelanta. El amor es una fogata, pero tú traes